Welcome to the Awakening Women podcast. I'm your host, Leanne, and for almost a decade, I have been a transformation coach and therapist. This podcast is all about lifting the veil of consciousness and awakening to the truth. It is also about helping you to raise the bar in all areas of your life and relationships by starting with you. If you're ready to take back your personal power and reclaim your life, you have come to the right place. I'm so glad that you're here, so let's get started with today's episode. In this episode, we're chatting about something a little more on the serious end of things, and I take this very seriously because I think it is a widespread issue and it becomes more of a severe issue when women are in abusive relationships. And this is the pressure and coercion toward engaging in sexual acts that they don't really want to engage in. So this is a big topic. Again, there's a spectrum here as far as it goes with consent. Like fully consenting means I'm fully into this thing and I consent these acts or not these acts. I'm consenting to open my body up and I'm there, mind, body, spirit, at least to the best of my ability, right? Like you're open to the thing. And so there's different severities of this because it can go all the way from obviously forced sexual assault, rape, and being in a relationship where you feel pressured, manipulated, guilted. You get threats. If you don't comply or give them what they need, they may withhold money or love or affection or whatever. Silent treatment. That is all abuse and it is coercive behavior. So we have to be able to differentiate between I'm just not really in the mood tonight and maybe they're putting the moves on you and you kind of get there and change your mind. Not that. It's more they keep hounding you and pressuring you and guilting you and making you feel bad, or they just keep going with pursuing it when you're not really there and you don't want to do it. And so you oftentimes just give in to avoid the fight, to get a few days of relief without the pressure, to, keep the peace, all of that. And I just really want to go on record to say that when we do this, we are abusing ourselves. We are self-abuse to open up sexually like that when nothing within you wants to do that. So when that happens, you're not giving your full consent. So consent is a big one. So it can happen in healthy relationships where maybe you feel kind of weird about stopping in the middle of something, or you're not really quite sure how to raise it in the midst of an act. And so you perhaps would bring it up later. That's different. And then hopefully your partner would just be like, whoa, okay, I didn't know that. Thank you for telling me that. It won't happen again, or we won't do that again. There needs to be healthy communication around it. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you're in a relationship with someone who uses sexual coercion and who uses the coercive behaviors around guilt trips, pressure, manipulation, threats to get it elsewhere, withholding of money, love, attention, time, the silent treatment, all of those things, right? It could be you're laying in bed and you are not wanting to be intimate and it starts a big fight. So you're up till 1 a.m. fighting and going on and on and on. And then you think, God, I should have just given into it and shut him up so he'd go to sleep, right? That again, like that is not, it's intense. And partly, I'm speaking from some personal experience around this. And I work with lots of women who are experiencing this. And it has to stop. You do not owe your husband, boyfriend, anyone your body if you are not fully into it. Does that mean sometimes you're not going through the motions and doing it just as a means of connection when maybe you're not fully there and you get into it and you feel connected with them after? Sure, like that can happen too. You might not want to, you might not be in the mood and then you get there. That's different. you're still fully consenting. But if there's any part of you that is like, I really don't want to do this and I'm feeling pressured and I'm doing it to keep the peace or get him off my back or get a few days of peace where he's not going to keep bringing up how many days it's been or how he has needs or how he's going to get it somewhere else, that is crossing the line, and you have every right to have that physical boundary of, I'm not going to have sex with someone who treats me in these ways. I will not do it. And with this stuff going on, I cannot give my full consent to sexual activity and intimacy with someone who mentally twists things, who calls me names, who gives me the silent treatment, who doesn't listen to me, who doesn't care how I feel, who doesn't care to listen to what I have to say, to someone who makes me feel crazy and makes me feel horrible about myself. Like, eventually, you're not going to want to be intimate with someone like that. And that is your body's wisdom saying, no fucking way. We're not going there. But then you bypass that and just allow it. And so then it becomes in that murky, it's sexual coercion, and it's coercive because it's manipulation that makes you do something that you don't fully actually want to do. I have also heard from women over the years that it could be the opposite, where they're the ones that are wanting that connection because it's something they need, that they want, but that the other person is withholding it or not wanting it or rejecting them. So it could go both ways, but I would say across the board, the majority of it is it's the opposite. It's the woman who is closing down and shutting down. Her body is not receptive to their partner's touch or even being near them or wanting to be close and intimate. So I just really wanted to bring this up because this is so prevalent in these abusive narcissistic relationships. And it is harmful for you. It causes you sexual trauma that's going to take you a long time to rewire. And it starts with setting those boundaries now when you're in the relationship, as you are planning your exit and working toward getting out. You're allowed to say, we're not having a sexual relationship, or I'm not comfortable with these particular things, or I'm comfortable with this, but not that. And really standing firm in that and not allowing their manipulation to coerce you into doing things you do not want to do. That could be sexual acts. It could just be the act itself. It could be touch. It could be hugs. It could be anything. You have to be able to fully consent for it to be consensual. And if it's not, then it is bordering into sexual abuse. And I think many women can be in these relationships and not realize that these behaviors are actually categorized as sexual abuse under the coercive behaviors. And that can be a shock when you realize that, and you know that it doesn't feel right, and you know it feels disrespectful and degrading, and that, it's a lack of reverence for you, and that's why it doesn't feel good. It's crossing a boundary. And I just feel heartbroken when I hear stories of women and even young girls go through this. Teen girls can go through this where they feel pressured and they just give in and just let it happen. That is, my God, self-neglect, self-betrayal, self-rejection, self-abuse to do that. And so the message here today is you are the owner of your body and all parts within it. And on the outside of it, you are the owner of your body. So you get to choose who is allowed to touch you and where and when. And you're in charge of saying no and standing in your no. And if you have someone that is forcing the issue and you feel uncomfortable, then you pick up and you call the police. I know it might seem extreme, but someone who has that kind of behavior and makes you feel pressured, if it starts getting to the point where you are being abused, you're being yelled at, you're being screamed at, things are escalating, you're feeling afraid, then you call the police. And I can bet you that will stop in its tracks, right? Because as soon as that has been brought into the equation, they're very less likely to go in that direction again, right? So if you ever feel unsafe, where you're being intimidated, yelled, screamed, raged, things are being thrown, and hopefully not, but if it gets physical in any way, do not just gloss it over. You pick up the phone and you call and you report it so it's on record. It is not your job to protect someone who is harming you in any way. It's not your job to do that. And you don't have to feel guilty for secretly behind the scenes working on your exit plan and setting those boundaries and limits to no, I'm not going to do that with you. And many women have a lot of guilt around that and they feel bad around that. But you have to really look at the fact that they are not feeling bad for how they are impacting you and how they are making you feel. They're not thinking about how is this behavior making her feel, that she's saying, I don't want to engage sexually with you. And it's a matter of like, oh, well, I'm going to withhold this, or I'm going to punish you in this other way. So some thoughts to ponder around that. And as part of your exit planning, you're allowed to set some boundaries and have full ownership of your body. And if you would like to learn a little bit more about things you can avoid, the biggest mistakes that women make in these relationships, I have a video for you. You can click the link in the show notes. I was going to say the bio, the show notes of this episode to sign up for it. It's about really getting prepared to exit. The end goal is to exit. And even if you are not ready to make those steps yet, one of those steps can be, what are some new limits that I need to set in this so that I can feel safer and protect myself mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally? How can you protect yourself from someone who is not looking out for you or who doesn't care how you feel? So head to the link in these show notes if you'd like to watch that video, and I will chat with you in the next episode. Take care. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Awakening Women podcast. If you love this show and it has served you and helped you on your journey, please take a moment right now and leave a rating and review in iTunes and Spotify. If you'd like more daily content, videos, and inspiration, come on over and join me at Awakening Women Support Official over on Instagram, where we can connect and you can continue your transformation and growth journey. And I'll see you online. Take care.